So we're getting ready to design, engineer, and build a 50,000 gallon underground reservoir out of little plastic panels. And on top of this structure, we need to hold over 500,000 pounds of boulders, rocks, gravel, and soil, as well as any type of heavy equipment that is gonna run over the top of it. So this 50,000 gallon reservoir is going to be well below the normal gradient. So what we're trying to do is replicate nature using biomimicry. I love going out into nature, learning from the natural elements, and just kind of gathering all of that information. If you really look at a natural ecosystem, we have underground reservoirs, we have aquifers underneath things, we have springs that bubble up and water cascades out of rock cracks and fissures. I want to try to mimic that type of a look, and it starts with a massive excavation. We're going to go down up to 10 feet deep. This is going to allow the pumps to sit well below the normal gradient, and the ground at that level is going to be much cooler, even in this harsh desert type of an environment that we have here. So the water is going to be cool, it's going to be in the dark, but I don't want to see all that infrastructure. So this is going to allow us to bury it under many, many feet of dirt, and then we could bring in all types of amazing plantings on top of it, as well as a wide variety of the beautiful stones that I'm finding right here around this property. I'm talking massive boulders that are going to be sitting on top of plastic blocks. It just defies gravity. And I know all the engineers on the project right now are scratching their heads because they haven't seen anything like it. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss this. With this new machine, having the right equipment is key. We have a 4 cubic meter bucket, just takes monstrous scoops out of the earth, loading them up into the big dump over here so we can make things happen very quickly. So we are getting into some tough conditions. This big excavator is definitely doing the job, but we're still getting into some harder bedrock. It's a little bit more tedious. The good thing is this is not going to move. I know that for a fact. Good solid sub-base to work off of. If you're familiar with decomposed granite, that's exactly what this stuff looks like. So we're busting through all that stone in order to not only increase our productivity, but actually get a little bit finer attention to detail. We have to be within a pretty tight tolerance because of a few other factors, which I'll describe later. As you can see, that excavator right there is now hanging from the crane. We are going to take that excavator, place it down on this shelf so we could clean this. We have a secondary shelf inside of here. The reason for that, there's a sewer line that cannot be moved over here. There's another one along the bottom. This one is shallower. We have to make a shelf inside of our excavation in order to accommodate that. Cody's going to start here, clean this up, then he's going to move down to the bottom, and then we also have to clean up the area for our pump vault, which again has finer details, and it is more suitable for this machine. Double checking all of our elevations as well as our length and our width to make sure that we have adequate distance and spaces in between our aqua blocks and the excavation itself. Anytime I'm working on an excavation in a reservoir of this size and magnitude, I want to make sure that I have enough space between the edge of the wall and the edge of the aqua block. So in this application, we have approximately 24 inches of space between the edge of the aqua block and this excavation. So that gives us flexibility to kind of twist and turn things a little bit, and it will also give us the opportunity to backfill it properly. This is going to be a very important structural element because potentially we could have heavy equipment driving over the edges. So we want to make sure I'm treating this exactly like I would treat it underneath a parking lot. We're going to have the necessary compaction, and we're going to put it under compression going around. All the different layers of geotextile, the heavy duty geomembrane going over it, another layer of the geotextile, the aqua blocks, the gravel backfill. We have a 32 mil crushed rock going in around the outside perimeter with no fines. That's going to put those blocks under compression. That's when they're going to be their strongest. Then on top of that, we're going to come in with more geotextiles as well as soil, river rock, boulders, etc. to really dress this up. Now you can see the overall scale of this feature. When we're done with it, it will look completely different than this. This giant excavation over here, this pump vault will be completely hidden from view. Over in this section, we're going to have trees up above this. We're going to have a waterfall cascade coming over in this corner. We're going to have a small river system down in the bottom that makes it look like a delta area. So my goal with this is to kind of mimic the Okavango Delta. Then we're going to connect underneath this boardwalk with the other waterfall that's going into the lake down below. All these different elements have to be carefully orchestrated in order to pull it off. We're finally at that point. Subgrade is taken care of. We have a nice smooth layer. We compacted everything. We came in with crusher dust, which is the remains after you crush up some of the stone. Good mixture of different things, very easy to compact. The nice thing about it doesn't move around as much as sand, especially on an excavation of this size. Now on smaller ones, I will use this regular sand because it's easy for us to get. This was actually perfect for this application. See the size of this excavation. Again, just giant, 50,000 gallon reservoir. Down over on this side we have some concrete canvas. We're just barricading this because this is where a pump vault will be located. So there's going to be a lot of construction, a lot of forming, pouring some walls inside of this reservoir. Now you've probably seen me in maybe some past projects where I've used precast structures where I just lift it up with a crane, set it, and we're done. That wasn't viable for this location, so it was going to be easier to cast it in place. The nice thing about that is we can actually customize it according to our needs versus modifying a precast system. We're coming in with our heavy-duty 16-ounce geotextile fabric. This is what we call our rock pad. Very, very robust material. We're trying to make sure that we don't have any issues just because of the location. Working with bedrock, so we have tough conditions, and also if I have to do a repair, it's going to be next to impossible to take care of that. So I just want to make sure that all these little details are being taken care of and addressed. All right, we are finally ready. We have our compacted base layer in place, concrete cloth over in the corner, heavy duty geotextile going across. It has all been welded together, so it's all one continuous piece. Now we're gonna pull out a 110 by 50 foot piece of lining. We're making great progress on the aqua blocks. They're all the double stack units that are going in the main reservoir. These are single stack units, even though they're stacked on top of each other. Those are going in the pre-filter down by the main lake. So we were trying to separate everything, get everything ready for us. So as we start moving along with construction, we could efficiently do the installation process. We finished the entire excavation. We cleaned up the bottom. We had little issues of some debris falling down inside, which is always typical, especially on a dig of this depth. Our pump vault's going here. It's going to be cast in place. A lot of times I prefer to use a precast unit because I could put it in very quickly and I could work everything off of it. So the cast in place, so what we needed to do was set this edge right here. So we had to do careful measurements to figure out the face of this concrete container, sides, the walls, the floor, all of that. And then we are going to add additional aqua blocks between these and the front of this concrete. The nice thing about this is we have a larger pad than we actually need. So the box is actually going to sit in the center of this. So we could kind of shift it about a little bit. We'll fill this with concrete, hopefully by the end of the day today. Then we could get an exact number from the front of this to the front of this new wall. And then they'll be able to move forward with pouring the concrete actually on the project site. What I love about this, we have our team out of your certified aquascape contractors, and we also have a bunch of the local construction team assisting us, which makes things a lot easier. Everything from building the aqua blocks, shuffling them in place. So we have just teams of people working together to pull all this entire project together. So what my goal is by the end of the day today is to make sure we have all those measurements done, and we're going to start filling in these void spaces between the aqua blocks and our excavation. We're going to fill that with crushed stone. That's going to put those aqua blocks under compression, so it's going to really lock everything in place. So the whole idea of this is to create a waterproof basin. This is going to be a surge tank. This could actually fluctuate up and down depending upon times of the year, dry season, wet season, etc. So that's going to give us a lot of flexibility. And I've also done all the different calculations because of the water in motion. Just due to the sheer size of this project, we have a lot of water that's actually in the main pond, as well as the stream and waterfall systems. So when the pumps are actually turned off, all of that water, excess water, is going to flow by gravity, and it's going to go down into the tank. So I have to have the extra capacity to allow this to bounce back and forth. We have the team down below. They're doing the concrete vault. This is going to be for all of our pumps. So we're going to have 4 large pumps inside of this. 2 of those pumps are going to feed the main waterfall as well as the wetland filter. The other 2 are going to feed those jets right over on the other side. This is a 50,000 gallon reservoir. You can still see we have to do more aqua blocks in here. While they're going to continue working over on this side, I'm going to start setting stone over in this section. So I want to have a series of fingers coming out of large outcroppings of rock. And then I'm going to have these little backwater areas. The entire goal for this reservoir is not just to hold water, that 50,000 gallons of water, but it's also to mimic a riparian zone. The one that I keep thinking of to me is the Okavango Delta, which is not too far from us, highly biologically diverse. We have all these river systems that come together, and it spills out into a shallow depression in a low-lying area. It's loaded with life when it's in full operation and it's full of water. So this cascade, there's going to be water coming off of this flat rock, and it's going to fall into this little shape, and we're going to have all these little weird outlets and inlets and things like that. The water's just going to saturate itself, and it's going to connect down with all of those aqua blocks. That aqua block system is designed to create a structural void space underneath everything. So I'm going to have a floating pool of water, but the water below inside of that tank could actually fluctuate by many, many feet, or even a meter or more. What I'm focusing on right now is leveling off this beautiful flat slab of stone. You can see it's freshly cracked piece of granite, so it's got a really nice crisp edge over here, which is going to be ideal for us to create a waterfall. That angle, the angling away from that spill point, so that water is going to kind of sheet off of this thing. Now we're going to come off of this with what we call a frame rock, frame out the edge of the waterfall, and it's going to force all the water to go over the lowest point. The rock that I'm going to set next is going to be much higher than this because it has to force the water over the low point. This is going to connect in with the main pond over here, so that's going to have a nice smooth water flow coming through all of this. And it's going to disappear down into this tank. There's going to be a walkway located in that section, what we call the boardwalk. That boardwalk is going to have an overhanging decking to almost kind of create like a dock-like feel. The water is going to disappear underneath that overhang, and that's going to create the illusion that this actually continues and goes into another direction. I want to disguise the discharge point. I want to hide the place where the water starts, and I also want to hide the place where the water ends, because it tricks the mind. So it's just simple design philosophies and techniques that are very, very effective to create the desired look. A lot of activity out here today. Guys are working on the negative edge. So this is the point where all the water from the pond fills up because of all the pumps coming in and dumping into this pond. Overflow point is called a weir. So that weir is actually a large slab of flat stone. It's going to provide a cascade that is going to drop down to the underground reservoir tank on the other side of that. We're now placing in a bunch of small river pebbles and things like that, and the only reason I'm doing that is because of the animals. So just like any type of an animal enclosure, there are going to be a wide variety of animals drinking out of this, and this little shallow water crossing here is going to probably be a very popular spot. So I want to make sure that the hooves are not going to damage anything. We're going to keep working our way across the entire bottom so we can enclose this space, cover everything up with our flow cells, and then another layer of the heavy fabric, so that'll completely encapsulate the pump vault. Then we're going to come in with that layer of crushed rock all the way around the perimeter to give us the necessary compression, the exact same operation that we did before. We just had to put everything on hold to allow enough time to put in the framing as well as pour the concrete, let it cure. Now everything is set, we're ready to go. This is going to be a great moment because then we can finally start to close off this entire space. Backfill process is complete. Now what we're doing is we're taking that rubber membrane, we're folding it in on the outside. We have an extra cutoff piece from one of the other pools. We're going to lay this membrane across all of this crushed stone. The main purpose, I don't mind if water infiltrates in. The problem is tree roots like to follow the path of water. I want to create a barrier. I want to create an impermeable barrier where it would be difficult, if not impossible, for roots to get in. It's a very, very difficult task because roots are unbelievable. They will seek out water wherever they can find it. So what we're going to do, lay this membrane out. Water does not soak through this.